Hello everybody, my name is Paula and this is Room for Jesus. Today we're going to be discussing the deal that God has offered to humankind. And before we do that, we're just going to go over what a deal is exactly. So for example, who's involved, what agreements they might be making, what conditions there might be to a deal, so that we just get to know what a deal is exactly, and then we will apply those principles to what God is offering. So when people are making a deal, there's usually two parties involved, or at least two parties involved, and each party will be giving up something, and each party will be receiving something. So for example, a merchant has merchandise. He gives up his merchandise in order to receive money. And then the customer gives up money in order to receive the merchandise. So each party has their part to play, and the deal can't be finalized until they both agree, okay? They can't have a deal with only one side doing their part. So it's a two-way street. Also, with a deal, there's often some kind of time limit. So you may have a certain date by which you have to close a deal, or there might be a sale and this week only, so if you don't close the deal before that deadline comes, then the deal is no longer being offered. Then again, certain conditions may apply to the deal. For example, in order to buy a house in a certain country, you may have to be a citizen of that country. Or maybe there's a sale on, but it's only for seniors. So something like that could be one of the conditions that applies. So you have to be a certain kind of person in order to accept the deal. Another part of the deal could be about the long-term effects of the deal. So there's conditions. So if you buy insurance, that's a long-term deal. The seller of the insurance is committed to you for a long term. If you buy an appliance, there might be a warranty. So the merchant or the manufacturer is committed to you for a long term. So there might be some kind of long-term effects in a deal. And finally, the deal doesn't go through until payment is actually made. So for example, if you're buying something in a store, you could have the merchandise in your basket. You could be walking around the store, you agree with everything that the merchant is saying about the product, but you can't go home with the product until you actually pay. So you could believe in the product, you could have all kinds of good thoughts going on in your head, but until you actually pay, you don't take the merchandise home. So how do all these ideas fit in with the Apostles' doctrine? How do they fit in with Christianity? Well, we know that God is offering us a deal. So the deal now is between two parties, like we said before. The two parties involved will be God and you. So you and God have to agree on a deal before the deal can go through. So in this deal between God and you, God will be giving eternal life. That's the part that He's giving. And the thing that He's receiving is you. You will become His child. To Him, that is precious. You don't think of yourself as precious, maybe, but God thinks of you as being precious. He thinks of you as being as precious as the jewels in a crown. So when He gives you eternal life, He will be getting something that's a precious child. On the other hand, when you finalize a deal with God, you receive the eternal life, but you have to give up sin in order to receive the eternal life. You can't just, you can't just walk into a house with light-colored carpets when you have muddy feet. You have to wash the feet, take off the muddy shoes, wash your feet. And the owner of the house might give you some slippers, and then you can come in the house. So you have to give up something in order to get this eternal life. The sin is like the mud. You have to wash it away. That's where the blood of Christ comes in. And then you can get the eternal life. You can walk into God's house. Imagine that. That's a deal and a half. And in this deal and a half, there is a time limit as well. So Paul, in his first letter to the Corinthians, said, "Now is the accepted time, now is the day of salvation." And in Hebrews, he said, "It's appointed unto man once to die, and after death be judged." So you see, we don't know when we're going to die, right? So this is why you have to be able to come to terms with God right now. Now is the right time. You don't know when you're going to die. After death, the deal is not on anymore. The deadline is past. It's gone. That deal is not being offered anymore. If you don't accept it now, you might die now, and then you will be out of a deal with God. And when you don't have a deal with God, that means you're going to be rejected by Him, and you will go to hell. People don't like to hear this, but that's the truth. The alternative to the deal is hell. So if you don't have eternal life, you have eternal death, and that's what hell is. So accept the deal today, while you can still hear it, while you can still call out to God and receive His eternal life. Do it now, not tomorrow. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Now is the day of salvation. The other thing about this deal is that you have to be a certain kind of person. So when a certain country tells you that you can't buy a house here because you're not a citizen, well, you accept it. There's nothing you can do about it anyway. When God says you have to be a sinner in order to accept His deal, you're going to say, "But I'm a good person." The thing is, when you say that, it means that you're not accepting the deal. You have to accept that you have to be a certain kind of person in order to get this deal. This deal is not being offered to good persons. It's being offered to sinners. Because going back to the illustration of the carpeting, if you don't accept the fact that your feet are muddy, you won't want to wash your feet because you'll say that your feet are not muddy. And if you have mud on your feet, you can't go in the house. Even though you might believe that you should be allowed into the house, you can't be allowed into the house because your feet are muddy. So if you refuse to accept the washing, you can't have the thing. A lot of people want to live their lives as a good person, and then God should accept them because they're a good person. But that's not what the deal is, okay? That's not the deal. The deal doesn't go through until both parties agree to what the deal is. You haven't agreed to what the deal is if you say you're a good person, so God cannot accept you into His eternal life. So now we come to the part about the payment. Like we said earlier, the deal doesn't go through until a payment is made. So this deal with God doesn't go through until you actually give up your sin. So you could have a shopping basket with all the stuff in it already. You believe in God. You believe that sin is bad. You believe that Jesus Christ died for sins. Oh, you've got all the beliefs in there already. But until you actually give up the sin, the deal has not gone through. Now, sin is something that is not easy to give up. Sin is not easy to give up. It's hard. But that's where another point comes in. The long-termedness of the deal. So that's your insurance and that's your warranty part. God is actually going to help you to give up the sin. He's going to make a long-term commitment to you to keep you safe, to keep you from slipping back, to help you move forward, to help ensure that your salvation actually goes through. He's going to help you with the payment. I just don't know how anybody can turn down this deal. Just don't understand why anyone would turn down this deal. It's just so good because the person giving it is good. They're not asking for that much in return. You're the one that's going to get most of the benefit. What else do you want in a deal? So please take some time to think about these things this week. Your salvation is the most important deal you could ever make in your entire life. It's a matter of life or death. So please consider and remember that now is the time. Now is the day of salvation. Don't put it off.